Hey, you guys. um, so finally, getting this video out to you guys. I am starting a new series on here where we talk about relationships, dynamics, childhood, and how this all kind of interacts with one another and affects one another. I really want to start this because throughout my journey in my past few years of adulthood, I have begun sorting through my own childhood and what kind of relationships I had with my family, and then also what kind of relationships I had with people in my personal life. And, I began seeing cycles and similarities. And with that, being able to see that stuff, I've been able to heal and challenge myself and work on myself to create a more structured, healthy dynamic with my partners. I only have one boyfriend. I don't know why I said partners. So first we're going to talk about is what is the dynamic? How do we define a dynamic? A dynamic is the quality and type of relationship between two people. Meaning your parent versus you versus your partner, your coworker versus you, or you versus authority figure. These are all dynamics, right? How I define what's important to a dynamic is the quality that pertains to the relationship. So we're talking about fair and balance. Is it a good give and take? Or is it one unhealthy? Is it one-sided, single-controlled? Are you taking too much? Or are you giving too little? Or are you giving too much? All of these are things that pertain to the type of quality in a dynamic. So how do we define a dynamic parallel? Well, a dynamic parallel is the primary relationship one experienced in their early child development. This is with their parents, siblings, family members, their own peers, friends, in which overlay and repeat into adulthood with friends, family, partners, co-workers, authority figures. This is what dynamic parallels are. Dynamic parallels factor in your childhood, what your needs were met and weren't met, and how they are met in our relationship with others, how we navigate them. So the first concept we're going to kind of utilize and talk about is nature versus nurture. I'm going to define what it is, and then we'll go from there. So nature is the biological and genetic influence on the child. This looks like if you're predisposed to certain mood disorders like schizophrenia or depression or bipolar disorder. This looks like, are you predisposed to alcoholism or drug abuse, substance abuse? Nurture is the environmental and parental influence on a child. So this is, how your parents parented you, what kind of dynamics you had with your siblings, with your friends, what kind of environment you were surrounded by in school systems, education systems. If you were homeschooled versus going to public school, did you go to private school? Were you in extracurricular classes? Were you not? Were you a homebody? These are all environmental factors that we pertain to nurture. All right, so we're going to mostly talk about nurture in this type of video. But first we're going to break down the dynamic that one has with their mom and dad and themselves. So when you're a child, early on in your childhood development, you're trying to figure out how things work around you, how things function. So you're looking at mom and you're like, what do you do? You're looking at dad, you go, what role do you play? Then you're looking at yourself and you're like, okay, who am I? What role am I playing? And how do I play this role? So your mom is typically seen as the feminine, they're the caregiver. And your dad is typically seen as the masculine or the provider or the protector. Now, this is only limited to the societal stereotype of what is feminine and what is masculine. Personally, I consider myself both masculine and feminine, and kind of neither at the same time. So I don't give a shit, but this is just a societal stereotype. And then you have yourself, which I consider the child as the observer slash participant. Their gender energy is undefined. And this is how we get the overall dynamic. You know, you're like, mom does this, dad does this, mom and dad's relationship is like this, the relationship to me is this and this. And now I know how things function and how things work. Now I'm going to participate. I just got a message, sorry. So as age progresses, the child looks towards their parents to teach them their needs and wants and how to define them for themselves, which is what we're going to get into next, which is types of needs. All right. So the 4 that I want to personally talk about and utilize in this video is secure attachment, it's play, it's autonomy, and it's realistic boundaries. So secure attachment is, safety and connection. How safe do you feel with your parent? How connected do you feel with your parent? Were they emotionally available for you? Did they let you express yourself? This is what I mean by safety and connection. And then we got play, which is problem solving, healthy interactions with peers, and helping you define what's enjoyable and what's not enjoyable for you in your childhood. It's accepting what you find enjoyable. It's being okay that you don't find certain activities fun. It's helping you navigate social interactions with people, coming with finding disagreements with people your age, and your parent helping you navigate how to find a solution. Problem solving. Then we have autonomy, which is identity. It's external support, mistake navigation, confidence, building confidence. So, it's like when you drop something, you make a mess, and instead of your parent cleaning up for you or scolding you, they help you, clean up that mess. They reassure you that it's okay to make mistakes. We all are fuck ups. No one, I don't know why I'm thinking about that Kurt Cobain quote, which is, nobody dies a virgin, life fucks us all. But it's kind of like that similar concept. It's just, in this case, everyone fucks up, no one is perfect. We all get fucked, so we might as well find out how to safely get fucked. And then we have realistic boundaries, which is open, moving boundaries for a child to navigate within society. This is basically, how to create a boundary within ourselves that's comfortable for us as a kid. For instance, as a kid, we have items, we have material possessions. Our toys are important to us. Our game systems are important to us. If, say our parent breaks our toy, or a sibling breaks our toy, if we're not taught to really get upset about those things or allowed to get upset about those things, or if we're not allowed to say like, hey, you're not allowed to play with my stuff because mom says, well, I bought it for you, so your sibling is allowed to play with it because I said so. That's not creating healthy boundaries for us or allowing us to navigate our own boundaries, and also showing us that we're allowed to have possessions or allowed to have a say in what is important to us. So by helping the child navigate, explore, and understand their own needs, you build a foundation within them that they can further use and expand upon as they develop into multiple areas of their own childhood, which then further can help us into our adulthood. Parents, please understand that it is very fucking important that you help navigate your child into their identity and what's important for them. Because when you don't do that and you neglect their needs, then this can create a very unhealthy lifestyle for them future when they become adults. So how are dynamic parallels created? Now we're getting into the juicy shit, okay? So dynamic parallels are created from our childhood and the relationships we experience within the family system, the dynamics, right? These parallels are rooted in what needs were and weren't met, and how we learn to cope through the years into our adulthood without them, while simultaneously searching for them within our personal relationships. So, what do the dynamic parallels look like in each parenting family system? All right, we're going to go through the 4 different parenting styles and talk about what lacks in them and what is a benefit for them. There's not really a lot of benefits out of all of them, but we're still going to talk about them. First one being the most healthiest, the most ideal, it is authoritative parenting. What does this look like? Parent and child roles were defined and consistently implemented. So basically, I know I'm the child, I know my mom's the adult, I know my dad's the adult, they're the parent, right? And they consistently throughout my childhood implemented it in situations and structure. Parents help define and navigate the child's needs while supporting autonomy. So when a child is like, I don't know how to communicate that I need you to be there for me. Well, a parent can help see that by, how the child is interacting and be that for them. Provided emotional and physical safety and allowed appropriate emotional expressions to be explored. So this is like, if I'm emotionally distressed and I'm reactive in a situation with my brother, right? And instead of shaming me and making me feel like I'm, wrong for my feelings, they help me navigate and explore what is a more healthier emotional expression and come to a resolution. They express concern, parameters, and boundaries for a child appropriately while allowing and guiding the child to form their own decisions for themselves. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You help, you set expectations, you set parameters, you show them what's important in the childhood, for them, and you help them create boundaries that's important for them as they get older. So how does this look like for an adult? Like, why is this so important? Well, the child into an adulthood, can navigate and form their own support system that reinforces safety. The adult is able to form and build trusting, healthy relationships in all areas of their life, meaning, at their job, in their romantic relationships, within their friendships, within their public persona. All of these are so important, right? So they also can have a healthy sense of empathy over emotional expression within themselves and others. So they can express themselves openly and effectively. And they can meet their friends, their peers, their co-workers, their partners with the same amount of empathy, compassion, and acceptance, while also understanding their own emotional availability. Adult is able to navigate their own boundaries consistently and respect other boundaries. An adult maintains self-control and discipline towards their goals, which means like you added so much structure into their life in a healthy way, and they know how to have self-discipline and motivation to what they want in life and what they aspire to be. All right, so now let's get into the unhealthy kinds, the good kinds. Well, it's an oxymoron. They're not really good kinds. So the first unhealthy one we're going to talk about is authoritarian, right? So this is like what I kind of consider military style of parenting. Parents are strictly, they place rules and regulations for their child to follow without giving an explanation or reason. Ridicules and criticizes the child for lack of obedience and mistakes. So you'll see a lot of parenting, you'll see a lot of shame in parenting, or a lot of kids that deal with shame as they get older. Play for kids and self-expression are criticized and rejected. So, if the parent, doesn't value a sort of type of expression, but it's what the child enjoys. If the parent criticizes, then the child's gonna not feel very confident about what makes them feel better or what makes them feel good. And even if they showcase, let's say they made an art project for their emotions and it was really important to them, and the parent criticizes it, then the child's going to be like, well, what I created was not important and I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy. Parent over controls perimeter for kids without navigating the child to create and learn healthy boundaries. Pretty much the parent over controls and navigates what is good and what is not good for the child, to the point that the child can't create what's best for them. So how does this look like as an adult? Well, the adult lacks confidence in self to create their own decisions. They lack autonomy and identity because the parent didn't let them navigate their own, way of life, their own development. Fears of failing, a low sense of self-worth, and creates perfectionistic tendencies. Now, personally, I don't think being a perfectionistic is wrong. It's just when you set higher expectations for yourself or a perceived expectations from others onto yourself, it can create a very unhealthy sense of self and worth. Adult lacks appropriate attachment skills, forming quick, non-trusting connections in personal relationships. Because they didn't have a sense of security and a sense of attachment with their parents, they seek out this security and attachment, usually emotionally and mentally, in their own personal relationships. And sometimes they form it so quickly that it's not stable, and it creates this rejected feeling because maybe the partner leaves because the kid is so or the parent their partner is so emotionally dependent on how they feel about them, and it gets exhausting, and so then they feel rejected because their partner leaves. Adults struggle creating healthy boundaries for themselves, and it pretty much allows people to overstep those boundaries. They don't find themselves worth it to create and have healthy boundaries. So that's what it looks like for authoritarian kids to adults. Now we have permissive, which is the opposite of authoritarian. It's essentially, you have a secure emotional attachment with your parent, but the parent does not implement and consistently implement the adult-child dynamic. It's loosely defined. It's like my mom is my friend. It's a power struggle. Parent provides little to no structure or routine with child in academic and social and domestic lifestyles. Lacks consistency. Bribes and manipulates kids to behave. That's fucked up. But essentially it's like, oh, you're not listening to me and I can't get you to listen to me. So if I give you this, will you shut up? Will you listen to me? And so when you manipulate a child, the child learns, it's a learned behavior. So they're going to learn how to manipulate you to get what they want now, because you manipulated them to get what you wanted. Kid makes decisions that isn't appropriate for their age, meaning like, I don't want to brush my teeth and I don't want to shower, so I'm not going to shower just because you asked me to. And say the parent has tried many efforts to get the child to shower, and the child's like, nah, Jose, not doing it. And the parent becomes so emotionally stressed that they just give up. So what does this look like as an adult? Well, the adult develops an imbalance over control in relationships. Self-control struggles with impulsivity and routines for daily functioning. So a lot of these adults might deal with substance abuse because if they get addicted to something because they want it, and they lack the self-discipline to stop and the self-control to stop, and they give into their impulsivity, it's their feel-good brain. Struggles with denial and sense of entitlement, lacks emotional regulation, and lashes out when met with adversity because they're not getting what they want. They see it as a denial. And lack of direction in life with goals and motivation because they weren't taught structure, they weren't taught why it's so vital to have routine and motivation. They weren't met with expectations at all. That's what that looks like for a permissive childhood into adult. And then we got the last one, which is uninvolved style parenting. This is the saddest one in my book. It's just really heartbreaking. So I'll get into it so we can get over it. So this means neglect needs in most aspects of the child's development, offers little to no navigation and attention to the relationship between the child and parent. If parent is physically present, the parent dismisses the child, lacks connection and attachment, and doesn't offer emotional expression. Pretty much, I know I have a child, but I'm going to ignore that they're there. That's kind of like what Casey Anthony reminds me of. They just don't pay attention to their child. They don't focus on them. It's not important to them. Now, I want to put a side note. If you're a parent that is like always busy physically, and your job is like time consuming and taxing on you, whether mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it may be, I can understand. We all deal with burnout, and it's a struggle, right? Um, but that's why it's so important to really, observe your lifestyle and what you have at the time before you start having children. And I understand that's like if you have a choice. If you kind of it just happened and you're a single mom or something, I know that's even more of a struggle and it seems more challenging. That's why it's very healthy to build a support system that you can rely on. If not for you, for your child. So how does this look like for an adult? Well, pretty much the adult, because they had to navigate their own childhood, they had this sense of independence, right? But it's almost like to an unhealthy degree. They oppose attachments, and it's extremely independence. They are adverse and they have difficulty connecting and trusting people. Social skills are limited or non-existent, meaning they suffer from feelings of alienation, isolation, and abandonment. When I researched this type of parenting, a lot of them said they don't have boundaries, which makes sense if they weren't taught to have boundaries at all. But part of me also thinks that they could also be the type to have rigid boundaries because they are so independent. Their self-worth can be extremely really high or really low. Really high in the sense of like I'm capable of doing everything on my own and I don't need anyone's help, so fuck you all. And then a lack of self-worth could be like no one loves me, no one wants me, and no one tries to get to know me. And they question themselves with the lack of support, meaning like if they have a question or an issue about something, they might struggle to really confide in anyone and be like, hey, I need help with this. So it creates this like cycle feeling of like no one's here for me and I can't really go to anyone, so this is why I must do it by myself. My example for this one is Austin Powers in Goldmember when it's his dynamic with his dad, Nigel. Pretty much it's like my dad wasn't there to see my achievements, to see and be proud of me. It's a song, Daddy wasn't there to take me to the fair, to change my underwear because Daddy didn't care. Mentality in this case. And within that movie, the whole dynamic is like Austin pretty much showed so much attention and interest in what his dad did and succeeded at because he wanted his dad's approval. It didn't matter if he enjoyed it or not, and I mean, I guess he did, but it was a learned desire. He was like, I just want my dad to see me and pretty much love me and be proud of me, so I'm going to do what he does because then he'll be able to see me. And then even then he didn't really choose to see his son. He just acted like he wasn't there. And now I think at the later in the movie they resolve it, but pretty much that's the dynamic. Austin chose to go in that direction of career because his dad was in it in hopes that he would get his dad's approval. So those are all what I wanted to cover today. The next thing we're going to talk about in the next video is these types of parenting styles and what needs weren't met and how this looks like in relationships with another parenting style and what needs they didn't have and what wasn't met. I might even indulge in my own, personal experiences too to you guys and share that. But if you like this video, please comment, please subscribe. It means a lot because I want to put out good information and good healthy knowledge out to people so that they can better help navigate their own needs and wants, because child development and how we were brought up is so fucking important to how we function in our adult lives. Okay, well, if you enjoyed it, thank you. I am glad you did. I hope this helps in any way, shape, or form, and I will see y'all next time. Goodbye.